Hi, my name is Andrew Kinney. I'm an attorney. My focus is Social Security disability law. I focused on this and done this work exclusively for over 20 years. This is Social Security 101, the Social Security Disability Program and SSI in particular. I'm going through a lot of the Social Security disability process step by step, and there are other videos, all free. The idea is to educate people about what to expect. In fact, if you're healthy, but you are starting to have concerns about if you're not, the idea is understanding this program so you know what Social Security has for you to protect you. Now, Social Security is a safety net, but they make it very difficult. I can't imagine if you're on a trapeze and you fall and you wait 2 years for someone to catch you. That's the idea what this is. It can take a very long time for Social Security to come around. Now I get it, there are a lot of applications and some need to be weeded out, but unfortunately a lot of legitimate claims have to go to a hearing and have the lower steps overturned, all for people not following directions. So in any event, today I'm going to talk about not just what are called grids or medical vocational guidelines, but I'm going to talk about when someone is over 50, right here, if they're over 50, what happens? The grids or medical vocational guidelines allow approvals because they recognize that someone is old enough that they can't return to the past kind of work they may have done all their lives. And it also is very difficult in reality to do a different career or use skills in a different way at that age and forward. And we have, within 15 or so years, we have full retirement age. So what we have with these medical vocational guidelines is Social Security decides if you're 50 and you can't do your past work physically, then they evaluate whether you have any skills. That's called transferable skills. But when you're over 50, over 55, and in turn over 60, there's some changes. There are progressively different standards when you get older. At age 50, there are different levels physically where people are limited, either sedentary, light, or medium. Social Security has adopted a dictionary of occupational titles. It's a very outdated dictionary, but ultimately what Social Security has adopted is different standards of physical limitations. If someone's limited to sedentary, it's basically sit-down work. Light work, you're lifting, you're on your feet, but you're limited to about 20 pounds occasionally. Medium, you're on your feet, and essentially you almost have no problems. You're limited to 50 pounds occasionally, 25 pounds frequently. I use the word occasionally and frequently as well. Occasionally means about a third of a day, frequently means about 2/3 of a day. These terms are terms of art. If you're over 50 or over 55, then your attorney should talk to you about whether the grids apply if you are limited in certain ways, particularly these two ways. If you're over 50 and limited to sit-down work, the question for Social Security under the grids is, and this is, you can look grids in Google, you can look it up. The question is can you return to your past work? Now, if you did a sit-down job, let's say you were an accountant and did a sit-down job, you're over 50, and you're limited to sedentary work. Let's say that you have peripheral artery disease, so your legs have a lot of difficulty, and maybe you need to elevate your legs, but you're limited to sedentary work nonetheless. Let's say you also have depression. If you are over 50, limited to sedentary work, and did a sedentary type job, there's a remaining question, can you return to your job? And if you're limited to sedentary work, the answer might be yes, but Social Security does need to incorporate, and they do. If you have depression that limits you to unskilled work, you are limited to sedentary work and can't return to your past work. So these are legal discussions with a lawyer. We're very happy to talk to you about them, but it's important to have this legal discussion when you're over 50 and have any physical problems. And in fact, it's very important to get treatment if you're over 50 and you have some physical problems. If you don't document the problems you have, Social Security might slot you on a level that's higher, and it might make you lose your Social Security claim. Sedentary work means that you are basically on your feet up to 2 hours a day roughly and can lift maybe up to 10 pounds. Light work means you're up on your feet about 6 hours a day out of 8 in a full-time capacity and can lift 20 pounds occasionally, 10 pounds frequently. See, occasionally, frequently. Medium, I mentioned that, essentially you're on your feet just like light, but you can lift 50 pounds occasionally, 25 pounds frequently. The idea here is that these are most relevant, although I argued so on Metagrid at Medium yesterday. That's there's a grid rule. These are numbers under a grid system. In fact, that's where this comes from. Just like a tic-tac-toe board, if you look online, people meet certain criteria if they have past work. They look to see if it's skilled or unskilled, and they look to see if you have if there's skills that can work to sedentary. But there's a whole grid that when you're over 50 and have physical problems that you should go discuss with your attorney or bring it up with the judge at your hearing. Have an attorney if possible at your hearing, but in the end it's very important to understand this. Hopefully this overview of grids, or a little more detail about exertional levels, that's what they call it, helps out. And one last term is the Social Security uses code word physical RFC or PRFC. You'll see that in decisions: physical, residual, functional capacity. That's in essence Social Security is saying your medical problems leave you at some basic exertional level. Okay? And finally, if you have something like carpal tunnel, you may be limited to light work, but can only use your hands in a way that you can't lift as much. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily have to be your back or shoulders. Any problems you have that limit you physically can slot you in these categories, and these grids are meant to help, or at least now they're meant to help. Hopefully this discussion on grids and exertional levels was helpful. If you have any questions, as I'm out of breath, please make sure to call our office. Thank you.